So this question applies to both of you. Why shouldn't you be president? Doesn't matter who goes first. So.
We'll alternate whoever answers after this.
Yeah, why shouldn't I? I guess I shouldn't be president because maybe sometimes I won't always care. Maybe sometimes I'll have like a depression spike, and then it'll come back, and then it'll come back again.
I guess why shouldn't I be president? I guess sometimes I can slack off. I tend to do more with little time, so I sometimes it might like show.
Yeah.
So, how do you guys plan on dealing with conflict within the board?
All right. So, best way to deal with conflict is to talk it out. I believe you talk to each individual person, and you try to find like ways to solve problems without without having either person lose in the situation. Not everything's going to be smooth and easy, and I know that. So the best thing to do is just talk to them, work it out, and make sure things go right.
If it's a minor problem, I'll probably just like shoot them up an email or like message them on Facebook. If it's a major problem, I'll pull them aside. And if it's an even bigger problem than that, I'll bring it to the group, and we'll just all hash it out from there.
So I mean, there's always been some debate about what Fusion's about. Engineering, Filipino. I want to know from you guys, why do you think this community is important? And what kind of focuses will you guys use for the next year? Like, engineering, Filipino, what are you guys going to do next year? Why is it important? Is it honestly important? I believe Andrew answered the last one first. And Danny, you're up first.
Fusion, right? It's not only answer.
Yeah.
Fusion is important. I don't think it should matter. I think we should maybe like step away from maybe always Filipino and only engineering. Maybe keep that as our origins, but we should be able to be clear that we're not all engineers. A lot of us aren't engineers, right?
So to emphasize the question, like, why is it important exactly?
Community. Community is important. It's great to be able to meet people, like-minded individuals. We don't have to talk to them. Our class is similar, and our friends.
So for the question of why Fusion is important, it kind of gives basically a home for people looking to identify themselves somewhere. As you can see, there's a room full of people who identify themselves as Fusion members, and we're the club they chose to basically make their home. And as for the focus, I feel like we're definitely more Alianza focused than we are engineering, and not all of it is under our control, unfortunately, but the best thing to do is to find that balance and make sure that we can provide the best of both worlds for everyone.
Ruel?
Both of you seem to kind of be the person who can get absorbed into what they do. Not questioning you guys' passion, you guys have plenty of passion, but if you get too absorbed into your task, how will you maintain the awareness needed as president?
Sorry, absorbed into what?
Whatever you're doing, whether it be an activity, something that you're trying to implement, anything. If like, basically your ego, when will you let your ego take over versus listening to other people's ideas?
So basically, sometimes you really want something to happen, and sometimes it might not work. So you got to make sure you have a strong, supportive board that can make sure to let you know that you might be out of line. You might want to rethink this or rethink that, because sometimes you're not always going to be aware of what your mistakes are, and so it's best to have people who have your back to make sure that you stay in line, that keep everything together.
I'd like to ask a question. I think I always like to take people's perspective on things. Usually when you do something in Fusion, you need a group. So I wouldn't be alone most of the time. So if I was doing it too hard, someone would stop me, or if it was if I was doing it wrong, so.
Right.
Cheers.
Only because it's semi-related to Brandon's. On the opposite end of the spectrum, what is your progression of steps for dealing with a board member who is consistently failing to uphold his or her duties?
They keep failing. I have to kick them off the ship.
Yeah.
I will remind you, please do take these answers seriously.
Yeah, so communication important, so it's important to talk it out with them, see what's going wrong, see if you can hash out a way to make sure they can uphold their duties, and if you can't, you have to make the tough decision of, you know, whether or not you're gonna keep them or not, and you have to do what's best for the board, so, because I think that's the most important thing for the president, is to do what's best.
Joanna.
Why shouldn't the other candidate be president?
Why would you say that for
She's serious.
I have the highest respect for my opponent, and I feel like I'm not in a position to judge his law,
Humble approach.
Andrew's an exceptional person, and I'm proud to call him my friend.
Ooh.
And I would have to agree with him. I can't call him out on his flaws.
Well, just to follow up on that, though, I mean, as president, you have to be aware, you have to be able to evaluate someone both the good and poor qualities. Because if you aren't able to adjust those qualities, then you're not going to be able to fix them in the future. I'm going to ask you guys again, is there something that you would critique about the other candidate for the future? I know you guys are trying to play nice, but I'm just trying to open you guys up a bit.
I guess Andrew tends to take his way more than anyone else's way sometimes.
Danny tends to use his feelings towards other clubs to, I guess, sometimes cloud his judgment.
Thank you. Alright, just real quick before we move on. Again, these answers, they're meant to differentiate you guys, so make sure you guys have good answers, right?
Question.
Personal.
Question.
Andre, oh, sorry. Do you have a comment, Maverick?
No, you had a question.
Okay, we'll do Andre and then Francis, okay?
So flip side to their question, what would make the other candidate a good or even really great president?
Specific.
Danny's very good at playing the leader role in the sense that he can really get a crowd on his side, and his ability to speak, to basically publicly speak, is exceptional.
Andrew's frankly much more sociable than I. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's more friends. He's closer to more people and more than I am.
Francis?
Okay, so this isn't directed towards just Fusion, but like what I've noticed with a lot of the Allianz organizations is that throughout the year, as the quarters go by, meetings like the member attendance rate starts to slow down, and the work that the board members produce starts to decrease because, it's towards the end of the year. How will you motivate your board members, and how will you hype up your general members into coming more and producing more for the club?
So, I don't think there's a way to stop that. People just have, spring board is always busy. I guess we just have to innovate more with our meetings. Just have more, don't rely on old meetings, just come up with new ones. As for us personally, I guess I would just inspire. I just do my best to inspire them. Maybe have a rousing speech. And just, I don't know.
Yeah, that kind of thing happens where as people attend the club more, they start to realize how they feel about the clubs, and sometimes they may not, find that same passion as they did initially. So the best way to keep members going, especially new members, is to keep providing them things to keep them excited. One of the things at least I have in my head that I want to do is I want to implement a appointed board position that solely was designed to basically create new ideas for like just like meetings and stuff like that, just so that we're not always relying on old things to make our club keep going. So I think it's very important. And as for the work of the board, it's very important to make sure people keep up with their responsibilities. The point of the board is to basically keep hashing out new ideas if we can. I know I personally experienced that where I've been kind of slacking towards the end. So I want to take my own personal experience and improve on myself.
What time do we have, Brandon?
Yeah, 4 minutes, 20 seconds.
Raul?
Alright, so you guys are ready for president, which is the top of the chain in the executive board, and the executive board itself, we branch it off because it is the authoritative voice of the club, and it is the president's job to utilize the people in the executive board to basically optimize their ways of going about administration information or just general go-abouts of the club. How do you plan on using the executive board to its greatest extent in your presidency?
So one thing I found out about at least board positions this year is there's imbalance between what the responsibilities of each role. And so I think it's important to find a balance for every position so that not one person is doing more work than the other, and so that basically everyone has a job to do, and we're basically being the most productive that we can.
Give them as much free reign as possible within the position. So any money problems would just be the treasurers. Any internal problems, I hash it out with the IEP. Any external problems, deal with Alliance, the engineering organization, the EVP. As for
Question. Would you want a co, or do you feel like you as an individual would be enough as the president?
It would depend on Andrew. I don't know. I think we have different ideologies, unfortunately. So I don't think us as co's would work so well.
I personally wouldn't want to go. I feel like I have the ability to run the club on my own. I feel like by being the president, you're taking on the highest position, so you should be able to take on, whatever's thrown at you.
Brandon?
Can you please state our club's mission statement?
Yo, I don't even know that.
Trick question, there is no mission statement.
Or, okay, how about, like Sherry said, what is your interpretation of the club? Why does this club exist?
My interpretation of this club. I think Fusion basically is what it states. It's a community of Filipino engineers who, while we're not the most professional in the world, we enjoy each other to the fullest extent. We love each other, and we come out every week. Maybe not always for the meetings, but definitely for the community. And Fusion is definitely a community that people tend to really love and enjoy.
Danny.
Answer that one.
Just 1 minute more.
Fusion, I think, is about spreading the ideals of engineering, but not necessarily being Filipino. You can still be, you don't have to be an engineer, but we like to be an engineer. Not necessarily, okay. I mean, our origins are based in engineering. We won't not accept you if you're not an engineer. We won't accept you if you're not Filipino either. We just want to unite you with people who you think you'd like to unite with.
Sure.
20 seconds.
So we've had a lot of changes this year with our board. We have tutoring, we have the families. What is one specific change, not something just like saying getting closer to Alianza, that you would like to see Fusion achieve under your presidency?
feel like I really like to boost up family program. Like that, get that more involved in the actual meetings rather than just have that rely on outside meetups. Because not every family leader is always motivated to hang out with the families.
As for something new, one thing I wanted to implement was to take secretary and historian and try to put together a Fusion yearbook. I feel like we don't have any form of past history other than what we tell people. So I think recorded history would be a cool thing to have.
Okay, thank you guys very much.